All right. All right. Welcome. We will get started in about a minute. I'll let the attending see people are joining, so I'll go ahead and start in just 1 minute. All right. So I'll go ahead and get us started. So welcome to the Research and Involvement series. For those of you who might have joined us for past step, the Research and Involvement series is a component of the Summer Transfer Enrichment Program. And then this is kind of an agenda of what to expect today of like my portion. So we will have an intro to STEP, learn about the Research and Involvement Coordinator, who is me. We'll do a little Mentimeter activity. We'll go into frequently asked questions about research, methods of getting research, and then we'll close altogether with a Mentimeter activity. And then we'll also hear from the Undergraduate Research Hub soon. So yeah, lots to cover in small amount of time. So this is a research and involvement series, and this is a webinar format, something to take note. So what that means is that us, the panelists, we can't see you, but you can see us. And that webinar format is you can't raise your hand during the Zoom webinar, but you can utilize the Q&A feature to ask questions, or I think it is on. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, you can utilize the Q&A feature. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use it. But we will have some time at the very end, about 10 minutes, to answer questions. So today is research at UCSD. And then our future run, which is on Friday, we will talk more about, let's talk research like topics, labs, areas, faculty, and more. And then we'll end the research and involvement series next Thursday about with how to outreach to faculty for research opportunities. So if you're wondering how to email faculty, utilize office hours and all that good stuff, that will be the webinar that you want to attend. And then apart from the Research and Involvement series, we also have other events coming up. So we're at that tail end of STEP, but we still have lots of transfer talks that are coming up, or 2 transfer talks and 1 Transfers Connects that's coming up. So getting on Wednesday, we have transfer talks getting to and around UCSD, which is, we have questions about parking, transportation, highly recommend attending. And then next week we have Meet the Transfer Hub. So you can learn about the Transfer Hub services and meet staff. And then on September 4th, we have Transfer Connects, which is mentor mapping, and that will be in person. So we still have a couple of things coming up for STEP. And then today's topic is research at UCSD. And so I wanted to give a little intro to Research and Involvement series, and also me, Research and Involvement Coordinator. So throughout the series, you're going to learn about, or you've learned about ways to get involved in all things at research at UCSD and also provide resume support. And then I wanted to introduce myself. So my name is Elizabeth, pronounced she, her, AI, and I'm the Research and Involvement Coordinator at the Triton Transfer Hub. And so a couple of things that I do in my role is I connect transfer students to research opportunities on campus. And I also provide resume support, and I'm a resource for transfer students year round. Starting fall quarter, if you wanted to talk one-on-one, definitely reach out via email. And I also have a scheduling link, but again, that would be starting fall quarter. All right, so now before we get started, we're gonna have Mentimeter activity. So I'm gonna switch my screens real quick. So we're gonna do a little word cloud on how do you feel about getting involved in research at UCSD? And then Simon has provided the link in the chat, and you can also scan the QR code, or you can join at menti.com using the code. So you can use it, you can do it on your web browser, on your phone, or on your laptop, whatever it is. Yeah. So feel free to put in a couple of responses. You're welcome to put, a couple of words, a couple of phrases, however you feel. But yeah, how do you feel about getting involved in research at UCSD? So I have an excited, just nice, curious, not sure where to get started, a little intimidated. That's very, yeah, that's very normal. You're not the only person that has felt intimidated too. Eager. Great. Any other submissions to just so that we can get a feel of how folks are feeling about research? Okay, eager and don't know where to start. Yeah. And then I'll wait a couple more seconds in case people want to continue to submit. Don't know where to start. Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of people are in the same boat where you're eager and you want to learn more, but also just don't know where to start, right? Because you're coming into a new institution. So no worries. That's what today is for, is that we're going to tell you all the ways that you can get started. And because I know that a lot of us are eager to start research. So thank you for, yeah, participating in the Mentimeter. This is good to know. All right. So I will continue with our presentation that we have. And I wanted to start off by kind of talking about experiential learning. Some of you may or may not have heard this term, but you might hear it throughout your time at UCSD. And I bring it up because research is part of experiential learning at UCSD, and the way that it's defined is experiential learning. It builds bridges between academic and co-curricular theory and practice by creating opportunities for students to learn by doing, right? And you can fulfill experiential learning through internships, research, volunteering, study abroad, community engagement, and entrepreneurship. And then this definition comes from the Teaching and Learning Commons at UCSD. So we do have a center that's dedicated to just experiential learning. I work closely with those folks. So if you have any more questions, I actually did in another webinar on experiential learning. So highly recommend checking that out. And this is just a chart of experiential learning at UCSD. There are so many opportunities on campus that this chart actually does not represent all the possibilities for experiential learning. But on here, we have study abroad, the academic internship program, generally internships, the Center for Student Involvement, which is also the name of an office on campus, and then of course research. So just putting that out there that if you wanted to learn more about the chart and exploring these parts of the chart, definitely we have recorded webinar sessions on how to get involved at UCSD, and it will be on the Transfer Hub website. So if you're interested in seeing what that presentation looked like, definitely check it out. But today we're going to be focusing on research. So frequently asked questions about research. Number one thing that I get questions from students is, do I have to do research at UCSD? And overall, the answer is maybe. But I know as you're coming into UCSD and you hear that UCSD is big on research, it is an R1 institution, meaning that simply means that there's a lot of research activity. There's high research activity at UCSD. And so you're like, okay, I'm going into a research institution. I'm transferring to this school. Like, do I have to do research? And I guess the answer to that is maybe, and you might have to, right? So there's three like big maybe reasons you'd want to get involved with research, right? And one is the HIP requirement, which is a high impact practice. So depending on your college, it might require you to complete a set of 199 independent study credits, and this can be done by hours with that professor, a faculty mentor program, and also even some classes. So that's an option. Major requirements. So your major, apart from your college, may also require you to do some type of research. For example, if you're doing the psychology major, you can probably fulfill research by doing hours with a professor, doing a faculty mentor program and some classes as well. And then maybe it's just preference, right? So maybe you're just interested in wanting to get involved with research, and maybe you have a topic in mind. You're like, oh, I've always wanted to learn about X topic in in the fields of psychology. Now is also the time. So you don't have to do research. It might be a requirement, but you might also have just some general interest in wanting to get involved. And let's say you've never done research at all and you're like, this is my time. So yeah, reasons to get involved with research. And so another big question is, can I get paid to do research? And if so, how? So ways that you can get paid for your research at UCSD is through different methods, right? So research programs, these could be offered through offices, departments, and colleges at UCSD. And in a little bit, we're going to hear from the Undergraduate Research Hub. So that's a big point of research programs that you can get involved with. Research scholarships, also we'll hear from the Undergraduate Research Hub about these scholarships, but this is money from external sources, right? Donors, families, individuals, and corporations. You do research and then you receive a scholarship in return. Faculty funding, you can work with a faculty or professor who has money for a current projects, and they may be able to fund you. And then corporate, right? So if this is more so external to UCSD, local businesses and research institutions that you can get connected to on campus. So definitely there's different ways to get paid for research. So if you don't get paid for doing research, you may be able to earn academic credit. So it's kind of like one or the other UCSD rule for research. So let's say you do academic credit. You can stay with the same research and get compensated differently during different quarters. And so I really like this visual of like an example. Like let's say you work with Professor Smith, for example. During fall, you can do the LAPE program, and we'll hear a little bit about what LAPE is from the Undergraduate Research Hub, but you can do one research program and then get paid for it. In winter, you can do the same research and get academic credit for it. And then in spring, let's say you apply to the Trails program, which again, we will hear about the Trails in just a little bit and get paid for it. So that's like a whole academic year of research. And so you can get compensated for it with money, or you can get academic credit. So it depends, right? Case by case basis, but just know that this is also an option of how you can get compensated for research. And another big question I get, especially from transfer students, right, is when do I have to start? You're ahead of the game. If you're watching this live, it's summer, you're ahead of the game. So just wanted to let you all know. But there's really no rules, but we do have some recommendations. So for fall quarter, that's a good time to start networking, outreaching to faculty, looking at programs of interest. So again, if you're watching this presentation, you're going to learn more about programs and how to get involved with research. So you're already doing that. And then if you're feeling ready, you can apply to some winter programs too. Winter quarter is when you can start applying for spring and summer programs. Deadlines vary, right, per program, but just know that I think that's a good time. And then summer. So for next summer, let's say, when you're going to be a continuing student, summer is a time where you can do more research kind of full time. So there are some programs that you're able to do research like throughout the summer for 30 hours per week, maybe more, maybe less. So that, by watching this presentation and going through this presentation, you can learn about different programs. And so you can start to plan for next summer, right? But again, you're in time and you're, doing the thing by being here and watching this webinar too. So these are some recommendations for that timeline. So methods of accessing UCSD research. So research at UCSD, and just know, I've kind of divided it this way, but just know that this is not exhaustive, but just to kind of organize it. So we have the real portal, we have the Undergraduate Research Hub, networking and contacting is another method of accessing research, and then honors program, which I kind of touched upon earlier. So the real portal is the research experience and applied learning portal. It's kind of like Handshake, but for research and experiential learning opportunities. So it really is kind of like a post bulletin where professors post like experiential learning and other research opportunities on there, and you can apply straight from that portal. And types of things that you can find there is research, internships, international opportunities, service learning, etc. And then you can browse for opportunities at real.ucsd.edu. And the way that you sign in is with your campus login slash SSO. So you should be able to access it now as an incoming student. And if not in fall quarter, definitely recommend keeping a tab on it. All right, Real Portal. So the research experience applied Real Portal, just a little bit more of information. That's kind of what it looks like. So if you log into the Real Portal, and on the right-hand side, you can see a visual of what it looked like. Again, you can sign in with your SSL credentials. And this is actually, the Real Portal is actually through the Experiential Learning Center that I mentioned earlier. So if you did have questions on like navigating it or, posting or something like that, you can visit elt.ucsd.edu. But again, a great resource for students looking for research. Undergraduate Research Hub. So I won't go too much into detail because we're going to hear from the Undergraduate Research Hub soon. But just know that there are yearly, quarterly, and summer research programs. And if you're eager right now, you can visit ugresearch.ucsd.edu for more information. But the Undergraduate Research Hub is also another way to access research opportunities on campus. And the Undergraduate Research Hub also has an Airtable of UCSD research programs. So on the right, you have a visual of what that Airtable looks like. And then on the left, the QR code, I highly recommend scanning it so that you can get access to that Airtable. And then this table provides a list of research programs and scholarships on campus. Again, it's not exhaustive. It won't encompass every single thing at UCSD involving research, but we're doing our best to kind of capture all the research programs and scholarships and just opportunities in general for research at UCSD. So I'll leave that on for a couple more seconds. All right. And then the third way of accessing research is through networking and contacting, right? So you can get connected to research through networking and emailing. You can reach out to professors who maybe you're taking a course in fall quarter and you're like, oh, this professor is doing this type of research. I wonder if I should reach out to him. Definitely, right? And you can reach out via email, office hours, and again, even during after class. Searching the course catalog and department websites for faculty members who teach courses that you hope to soon to take is also a way that you can get involved with research. And TAs, grad students, professors, they're all resources for you and ways to get involved with research. So cold emailing is a thing that I also recommend that students do. And some students have had luck also in connecting with professors through cold emailing. And I will say that in our upcoming webinar, I will talk more in detail about, what kind of things you can say in an email, how to craft that email to professors, what kind of questions can you ask during office hours. So in an upcoming webinar, you are able to learn more in detail about networking and contacting. So definitely recommend joining us for a future webinar. And then honors program. I know I touched upon this a little bit, but again, your major may offer honors programs or may require research thesis to graduate. So highly recommend checking your major department website. A good example, again, is psychology.ucsd.edu. And on that website, you can see psychology honors program. There's info sessions in the fall. So you can do this for your own major. Check the department website, or you can also get in touch with your major advisor to see if there's, maybe an option or a requirement to do research, whether that's through a thesis or through hours with a professor, like I said earlier. Another bonus point is that, right, Six College has an experiential learning requirement. So again, your college or your major may have opportunities or even requirements to get involved with research. All right, and then before I end my portion, I did want to share that there's a field research opportunity now accepting programs. So professor reached out to me to kind of share this. So if you're interested in doing social sciences research, applications are now open and they're rolling bases until week 0. So just wanted to put this out there because it looks like they're looking for people. Visit URH.org for more information and application. So it's community-based research, and it's on labor and environmental justice for Latinx immigrant communities. So highly recommend. The professor reached out. So if this is of interest, definitely you can feel free to take a screenshot or visit mfrp.org. All right. So with that, I will switch screens really quick onto URH. There you go. Oh. Let me just test it out really quick. Okay. So
All right.
I will transition over to Sophia. Sorry, Sophia. Over to Sophia from the Undergraduate Research Hub, and she will talk a little bit more about their services and programs.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Sophia Taineri. I am with Undergrad Research Hub and work closely with Elizabeth. So if you're ever looking for any of us at URH, please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Elizabeth, and we'd be happy to help direct you to the right resource. So this is us, the Undergrad Research Hub, actually from just last Thursday. We took this photo and we were at the Summer Research Conference. But yeah, this is the team, and we are all happy to have you talk to any one of us. You don't have to speak just with me or just with Elizabeth. All the team is knowledgeable about the various programs, and so we're happy to help guide you and direct you towards another program if it's not necessarily one that we coordinate ourselves. All right, so next slide, please. So the mission of the Undergrad Research Hub, I'm going to read this. We empower undergraduates seeking to become integrated in the UC San Diego research community with the skills to be successful in a post-baccalaureate career. And so our staff wants to create an environment for students to engage in research and leverage resources to maintain long-term relationships through high-impact practices. We welcome students from diverse backgrounds seeking to maximize their student experiences and future opportunities. All right, so next, we have a few pieces of advice. One of the things we'd like to recommend is just thinking ahead. I know that Elizabeth already kind of mentioned this before, but if you're planning to participate in summer research, many of our deadlines are actually in winter quarter. So that's 1 or 2 quarters ahead of when you actually want to apply. We actually have a few programs also available even in fall that you want to apply to possibly in the first few weeks of the quarter if you're ready. And so thinking about, okay, if I want to get involved in research, when do I want to get involved in research and when do I want to plan to apply? Next slide, please. And so in that sense, think about your academic and professional goals and what you want to do, what you want to get done. After that, we also think, part of what you want to do when you're getting involved in research is developing those strong relationships with faculty. This will help create strong letters of recommendation for the next stage in your life. And so that may be for your career, it may be for grad school, that sort of thing. But you will need letters of rec guaranteed. So as you're participating, think about developing that relationship and getting to know your faculty. Sometimes students do research and they get involved more with their grad student, with a postdoc or someone else in the research group, and they don't get to know the faculty. So just kind of keep that in mind that you want to develop that relationship with the faculty as well. As you're participating in research and applying with everything, be confident yet realistic about what you can accomplish. Certainly put your best foot forward, apply. Don't feel like, oh, because I don't have any experience or I'm starting as a transfer student that you're behind, but you are completely in the right place at the right time. And so be confident about applying. Realistic, you're not going to be able to get into 10 programs all at once. But we just want you to put yourself out there and apply, and we'll support you as best as we can to get into a program. Things that you want to think about if you are applying, why would you want to consider is you might actually get in, you might get to win that award, that scholarship to help support your research goals. And then it's a chance for you to participate speaking about who you are, what you want to do, and whether that's a written form, you're doing that verbally because you're meeting people and talking about your interests. But it's something that I think is good to practice and get to know and speak well about what you want to do. And even if you don't know what you want to do, that's okay. You can tell people about a few different ideas as to areas that you want to explore. And so at least you can share something more than I want to do anything. And so that's a good chance for you to be able to explain to somebody, whether it is like a potential faculty or maybe another grad student or someone that might want to help you with this, me or Elizabeth, but explaining who you are and what you want to do is useful for yourself. And then I want to mention that we do have a few resources on campus to help you with things like personal statements and essays, which are often parts of applications. On campus, there's the Writing Hub, which is part of the Teaching and Learning Commons. I know Elizabeth mentioned this earlier. So they also have this place that you can go and make an appointment with a writing tutor, and they can help you with that. There's also another place on campus called Oasis that has the Language Arts Tutorial Services, LATS, and they can do something very similar too. And so there are a couple different resources that can help you with that. And hopefully that can be a good resource for you to think about. All right, next slide, please. So thinking about what is research, a lot of times people will come here and they hear about that word, but they may not really understand what is research. And so a way that we define it is that it's a detailed study of a specific problem, a topic, a concern, or even an issue. It's usually centered around a question, a research question that you have, or maybe your professor may have that they want to answer. So it's a way for you to discover new ideas or new information, or you could even build upon existing information to advance the field further. And so a quote that we often like to use is Nora Zeal Hurston says, research is a formalized curiosity. It's poking and prying with a purpose. And so, yes, next slide. So giving you some examples, these are actual names of research topics that our students here within the Undergrad Research Hub, but also on campus have pursued. And so I'll read a few of these just to give you a sense of what's out there. But looking at body movement and dance, writing experimental poetry, looking at aerodynamics of a plane wing based on stingray physiology. And so that's actually combining two different areas. You've got mechanical and aerospace engineering, along with maybe some oceanography. And so it's really interesting to combine, and do interdisciplinary work too, which is allowed. And looking at Latinx families' roles in nourishing resilience. These are some of just a few topics that our students have pursued, but it gives you a sense of how many different areas can be considered when you're thinking about research. It's not just focused on one particular area. It's not just only STEM, but it is a wide area that a lot of students can participate in pretty much any major. So let's get on to the next slide. So a couple reasons people wonder, why should I do research? I know Elizabeth gave some examples earlier, but it might be a reason because you want to create new knowledge. You want to share that new knowledge. You can get a chance to build relationships with a faculty or other research mentors. You can get paid or possibly receive academic credit, as Elizabeth mentioned earlier. If you're preparing for graduate or professional school, this will help you also get ready for that. If you want to go towards a PhD, a law degree, a medical degree, many of these can give you more preparation towards going to graduate or professional schools like that. It helps you gain critical thinking and communication skills, because as you're analyzing and you're not given a specific roadmap as to how to do and answer this question, you have to use those critical thinking skills. And then you have to explain it to somebody else. So communication skills are also something that comes with research. You get to cultivate a community with peers. And so there will be other students that are doing research, sometimes in the same research group. Sometimes you're in a cohort because you belong to a program, but you get to meet people that are also doing research, which is fun. Sometimes you get the opportunity to travel to conferences. It may be local, it may be national, and sometimes students go internationally too. You get a chance to practice that public speaking opportunity through explaining your research. And then through research, you also get to develop a broad professional network. All right, next slide. And so question, who should be doing research? And our answer is everybody and anybody. We have research opportunities in all fields for people any year. Doesn't matter if you're incoming or if you've been here, 3-4 years and you want to get started. We have all kinds of programs and all citizenship statuses. That one is critical too, because sometimes students come in, they may be international students, undocumented students, permanent residents. We take students with every citizenship status in many of our different programs, at least if you look at them as a whole, you can find something for everybody. And the other thing that you can do is you can participate in multiple quarters or years and then across different opportunities. Elizabeth showed this really beautifully earlier, where she showed, the first quarter you could be participating in one program, and then you can switch to a different program the next quarter. And we want you to be in a research environment, not just in one program. And so that's a goal of ours. All right, next slide. So thinking about picking a topic, we suggest you think about things like what excites you. Someone mentioned in the chat that they were really interested in astronomy, in addition to be a chemistry major. So, if that's something that really excites you, go for it. Things that make you passionate or motivated to do something you want to change in the world. A lot of times you saw a few examples earlier of what students wanted to change and learn about. If you wanted to create new things, maybe making a robot is your passion, then fantastic. We can help you do that through research. What do you like to spend your free time doing? Outside of school, I'm sure there are things that you enjoy, and some of it may be academically oriented, some of it may not be, but that might help give you a clue as to what you want to do in terms of a topic. There may be major trends in academia, in industry, or even in the media. It might be very topical. I know a few years ago, COVID was a huge research topic, of course. And you can still do research in COVID right now. But if there's anything that's really current, if you're a political science major, maybe you want to look into the politics of what's happening this year with elections. All of that is possible for research. And then, of course, what are you studying in your classes? That's most often a very common thing for students to look to and say, okay, well, I did this biology class and I really loved molecular biology. Let me look into faculty doing that kind of research. All right, next. So looking at URH, our office, we have both academic year programs seen here on the left and summer programs on the right. You'll see some of the names are the same in both because we have both academic and summer components of that particular program. The nice thing to note here also is every single one of our summer programs has a star next to it, which means you get paid. It can be a stipend, it could be a scholarship, it might be an hourly pay program, but it has some way to support you financially during the summer. And a few of our programs during the academic year also do so too. And if they don't, they often allow for you to get credit or something else similar. So let's get into these individual programs. All right, so CAMP is, it stands for the California Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. And so this is all the different UCs within UC San Diego, all the UCs and the other friends that we have within the UC system. We all have created an alliance to support students. And so this is a national program, but our state alliance is the California Alliance. And so here at UC San Diego, we have a program that can be either academic year or summer. So the academic year one is spring quarter only right now, or it can be summer. The summer one is 10 weeks. So is the academic year one for spring quarter. You can get 189 credit during the summer in addition to getting paid. During the summer, I think the current amount the students are being paid is $3,500 plus housing. And so it may be on-campus housing as an offer, or it may be an off-campus allocation during the summer. For spring, it's just a flat $1,000 to pay towards you, and it's paid out through financial aid. So that's something to consider if it affects your financial aid package. Specifically, CAMP supports historically underrepresented minority groups in STEM. So you have to be in a major that's science, math, engineering, or technology. They're looking for junior standing and above, which all transfer students are at least junior standing. So all of you at least have that eligibility. And they're looking to support US citizens or permanent residents. So if you're interested in this program, feel free to reach out and we can give you more advice in terms of applying and getting ready for that. You would apply during winter quarter for the spring support, and then spring quarter during summer for summer support. Next slide. All right, so Empower is a great program for transfer students. This is specifically for engineers, and it's an incoming transfer student program only. It is an academic year scholarship, which is up to $3,333 per quarter. And the summer research option, you can choose to do research to get $5,000 stipend. So that's nice, but it's not a requirement for you to have to do research. So if you are just interested in getting a support, Empower can support you without having to do the research if you're interested. The goal is to support community college transfer engineering students. And so they are looking for low income students. I believe you need to have a Pell Grant eligibility on your financial aid package, and then US citizens and permanent residents. And don't worry, I know we've been focusing a little bit on STEM. We'll have more programs coming up that are not just STEM. Next slide, please. All right, Faculty Mentor Program, FMP. This program is open to all students, all majors. It is usually a 2 to 3 consecutive quarter program. And so usually students are doing 2 quarters back to back. For instance, you may do fall, winter, you may do winter, spring, or you may do actually all 3, fall, winter, spring, as a possibility. Right now, we're still not 100% sure about fall. It is currently pending whether or not we will have that as an availability due to staffing issues, but we will update our website. So just keep an eye out on our website for that. And so this program is for students that have at least sophomore student standing. So since you all have junior standing and above, you're considered all majors, all citizenship statuses. This is specifically just for students to get credit. And so if you want or need that for your major or for your college for some GE requirements, certainly this is a great way to do that. And in addition to just getting the credits, we have workshops and seminars to support you learning how to write a research paper, a research proposal. You get to present your research, and then you qualify for potential travel funding through URH. And I'll talk more about travel funding in a bit, but Faculty Mentor Program is a nice program for credit if you're looking for that during the academic year. Next slide. Okay, LAPE, this is one that Elizabeth mentioned earlier, but this is the Learning Aligned Employment Program. This is something that is actually getting a little bit restructured also right now. So some of these details are a little bit tentative, but this is at least what it was most recently. It was available during winter quarter or spring quarter. And it's $20 per hour that you do research, up to a max of $3,600 per quarter, I believe. And so it's 10 to 15 hours of work per week that you might be able to receive. I think you need to have work study as part of your financial aid package, but just double check on that requirement because that may be shifting. You need to be enrolled at least half-time, eligible to work in the United States, and a California resident. But this is a nice way to get paid, and it's an hourly pay, more like a job, but it is a way to basically learn research skills while you're getting paid like a regular job. So that's kind of nice. Next slide. Okay. Oh, the McNair program. So this is a program that begins in winter, continues through spring quarter and summer. So it is a total of 3 quarters. The summer portion is only 8 weeks long. The winter and spring quarters are the full quarter, so 10 weeks each of those. And so total, it's about 9 months. During the winter and spring, you get 199 credits, as well as early in the summer. In the summer, you also get to get paid. And so there's a stipend of $2,800 plus housing support. It is looking for either students that are first generation and low income, or you could be an underrepresented minority. And so you need to have one or other of these requirements. You could have both, certainly, but it's either first gen and low income or underrepresented. And by first gen, I mean, you're the first generation in your family to go to college. And so if any of these seem to apply to you, that can be something for you to be considered. We are looking for students that want to go towards a PhD, specifically in the McNair program. And the goal is to have students that are either citizens or permanent residents. And you need to have 90 plus units, same thing, junior standing by the beginning of the program, which is winter quarter. Again, as all transfer students, you are considered eligible with regards to units because you are at least junior standing 90 plus units coming in. All right. And the application for McNair, just so you know, this one does come very early. So as soon as the school year begins, it will be open and it's probably going to close by week 3 of the quarter. So if this is a program that interests you, look into this ASAP, start reaching out to coordinator now if you want to. And just be aware that the deadline is very early in fall quarter. Okay, next slide. Okay, the TRELS program. This was also mentioned a little bit earlier by Elizabeth. This one is funding no matter if it's during the academic year or during the summer. And so it's a flat scholarship. Triton Research and Experiential Learning Scholars Program. That's what TRELS stands for. It is supported by the colleges. And so you may hear about this from your individual college if you're going to orientation or something like that. So they'll probably push this, but it's a chance for students to do research or experiential learning. It is a quarterly support that you can have, and up to 3 times can you be awarded the Trails program. So for instance, you could be awarded during winter quarter, and then you may skip spring and then do summer again. And then maybe you do winter quarter again next year. 3 quarters, they can be consecutive or non-consecutive. It doesn't really matter. But you can be awarded up to 3 times, no more than 3 times while you're an undergraduate. And so during the winter and spring quarters, either of those quarters, it is a $1,000 scholarship. During the summer, it's a little bit longer. You're doing more full-time intense research. It is $5,000. And so this program takes students from any major, all citizenship statuses, and any class standing. And so basically all UC San Diego students are eligible while you're here. I think the minimum is like a 2.5 GPA, but otherwise we are looking to support students in all different areas. Next slide, please. All right, UC Scholars is a summer program. This is looking for students with junior standing and above. And again, you all are eligible with the junior standing. And it takes students from any citizenship status. So again, international students, undocumented students are highly encouraged to apply because this is one of the few programs that supports those areas. UC Scholars is an 8-week program. And so during the summer, they take students from any major, and it's a $3,000 stipend along with housing support. And so this is a picture of the UC Scholars just from last week who were presenting. And yeah, it's a pretty small group, but they're really fun to be part of. All right, next slide. This is a program that I run. It's the Undergrad Research Scholarships, URS. This program is a little bit longer than some of the others. It's a 10-week program, and it's only during the summer. It is at least $5,000 to be awarded. Most of our scholarships have actually increased to $6,500, 6,500. And so that's pretty nice, but we do have a couple scholarships that are at the $5,000 level. So it just depends on the scholarship. These are donor-related scholarships. So they come in and say, I want to support a student that's in biological sciences. Here's $5,000. Or I want to support a student that's doing research in sustainability. Here's $6,500. And so those donors have come in, given us the funding, and they make up the Undergrad Research Scholarships, URS, that we have created here. So those scholarships are available depending on your major or your research area. And so I know that it sounds a little bit confusing, but there are 12 different scholarships. And based on your major research area, you can apply to a few of those, maybe only one, but that's okay. Many times those scholarships have multiple awards within each scholarship. Some of them may have 1 or 2, but it does vary. And so we take students from any class standing, freshmen through seniors. You must continue to be enrolled the following year. So if you're about to graduate in June, you won't be able to apply, but I know all of you are incoming, so hopefully you're not finishing in just 1 year. You'll be eligible to apply for URS this summer. And so to do so, I know it's about a year away, but to do so, the applications are usually in winter quarter. We take students from pretty much all citizenship statuses. And so US citizen, permanent residents, AB 540, which is undocumented students typically, and then international students. As part of this, you will need to write a research proposal. So just keep that in mind if you are applying to URS, is you'll need to write an idea of what you want to work on during the summer. Okay, next slide. And we're nearly wrapping up, but let me just give you a quick sense. URH Undergrad Research Hub also hosts conferences where students get to present. And so this is names of multiple conferences that we host. We just hosted one last week, I've mentioned a couple times. That's a Summer Research Conference, SRC. We also host one in the spring called the Undergrad Research Conference, where students get to be nominated by their mentors to present, which is prestigious. We also have a faculty mentor program symposium or a spring symposium where students do a poster session. We also like to highlight that there's research in the arts, humanities, and social sciences. So we host a conference called CRASH to celebrate research in those areas. And also specifically for med students, if they're interested in getting to med school or even pharmacy school, we have the MEDS conference to support medical education for diverse students. Next slide. All right, so I mentioned also you can go travel beyond campus to do research. So if you would like to URH offers conference funding. There are also the colleges, each of your individual colleges can provide support for travel funding to present your research at a conference. And so here's examples of a few different ones, but there's many, many more beyond this where students can and have participated. And so we wanted to highlight those a little bit for you. The Society for Advancement of Chicanos or Hispanics and Native Americans in Science, SACNAS, is happening in late October, usually around Halloween. The NCUR is a national conference on undergraduate research. This moves around the whole US. I think this next spring it will be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then one that students love to go to is a National Collegiate Research Conference, which is held at Harvard and is run by students for students. So that's kind of fun. But there's so many different ways that students can attend research conferences and present their work. And so if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out to us. You'll have to participate in one of our programs and finish in good standing before you can be awarded a travel fund. But there are other travel funding on campus too that we can direct you to. Next screen. Okay, and then finally, prestigious scholarships. URH also helps students apply to these very prestigious scholarships. You may have heard about the Rhodes Scholarship, the Fulbright Scholarship. It's okay if you haven't heard of them too. But these are very prestigious awards that students can apply to that are competitive all over the country. And so you are competing with students at the national level. And we help students apply to them, whether you're working on letters of recommendation, you might need to be nominated for some of these awards, but there are over 25 different scholarships in that way that we can talk about. So feel free to make an appointment if you want to talk more about them. But some of them are for post-grad after you finish and you want to go to graduate school or professional school. Some of them are to go abroad. Some of them are currently while you're in undergrad, maybe this year, if you're involved in research, you want to apply for the Goldwater Scholarship in engineering, natural sciences, or math. For sophomores or juniors, it's $7,500 that you get for your last year in college. So pretty nice award. So talk to me more if you want to learn more about these. All right, next slide. We do have a newsletter where a lot of this information is. I know I sent a lot of information at you just the last half hour or so. So feel free to sign up for our newsletter, and we would love to have you there so that you can hear about these opportunities as they open. And next slide, please. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us at the Undergrad Research Hub, ugresearch@ucsd.edu, and we would love to hear more from you. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, Undergraduate Research Hub and the Training Transfer Hub are very much in communication. So we work together. So if by chance you have some questions about anything you heard from Dr. Sai today, feel free to also ask me. I can redirect you to the Undergraduate Research Hub too. So awesome. All right. Okay, so let me exit out of here. And we do have time for some questions. I'm wondering if we can also do our post-workshop activity. And Simon, if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat, and I think you have already. Thank you so much. So now you've heard from the Undergraduate Research Hub. You've heard from me in terms of what research is like at UCSD. So I'm wondering how folks are feeling, right? So post presentation, post workshop, how do you feel about getting involved in research at UCSD now? And hopefully, maybe a little bit more guidance, but yeah, I would appreciate your participation in our Mentimeter activity. And then we will have some questions if there's still some lingering questions from folks here. Informed, okay, awesome. Hopeful, confident, good, more prepared. Yeah, yeah. I think my goal was to kind of at least give you a broad overview of all the ways you can get involved with research, right? And it also wasn't exhaustive. So if you still have lingering questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A. We have some time to answer a couple of questions, but also the Training Transfer Hub and the Undergraduate Research Hub is a resource for you year round. So you can visit both of us, one of us too. So definitely. Informed but overwhelmed. Yes, it was a lot of information. Just want to make sure that you're in the know of everything. Okay, understand better, hopeful. Feel like it'll be hard. I think that there's maybe the hard part is that there's so many research opportunities and you're kind of like, okay, now maybe the next step is which one is for me, which one. So maybe the upcoming webinar, which is gonna go more into labs, topics, and stuff like that. So maybe that's more of like narrowing it down. Now you know how to get involved with research. So now how do you pick the one that's the opportunity that's for you? Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Elizabeth,
Yeah.
sorry, just a question I saw that maybe you or Sophia could touch on.
Yeah.
So talking about research opportunities, when students are applying to these, is it more that these programs have preset research topics that they're investigating and a student is hopping on as a research assistant? Or are these more programs that give money for the students to navigate their own research topics?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Okay, it varies, is the basic answer. It often depends on your major, whether it is a topic that you pursue on your own that is comes up with something that you're very excited about. I'll say that STEM majors typically join a project that the faculty have already started because they're so big and complex and often require collaboration across research groups. Um, those are you joining a project that exists. Now, the programs itself don't usually have specific projects. It's the faculty that do. Now, if you're applying to more of the social science areas, arts, humanities, that is often what do I want to fight for? What do I want to change in the world? What would I like to investigate further? Because I noticed this when I was growing up. Those sorts of topics are much more common in the social sciences and the arts, humanities. So I think that those are typically ones that are student initiated based on topic. But that is just a general rule of thumb. It's not a guarantee. So it really varies, but it's not program specific. It's actually more faculty or field specific. Anything else you want to add, Elizabeth?
No, yeah, I think you covered it all in terms of like the different, I think that's a big question when I meet with students. It's kind of reverse. So when talking about the faculty mentor program or the Trails program that from under the Undergraduate Research Hub, something that I let students know is that you kind of like you direct your own research, right? So if you have a like an idea for a project or a research proposal, it's kind of you're not directing it, it's kind of like you have the freedom to explore a topic, but it's under the guidance of a faculty mentor. So kind of like it's like my reverse answer in that, like for those programs, I think students, I think want to sometimes like jump on a project that's already going on or a research lab that's already in motion versus, conducting their own or exploring like their own topic. So I think it depends, right? From program to program, and then also the method of which you're getting into research. So yeah, that's
And let me also throw out that for those programs that you mentioned, like FMP and Trails and URS, it's a matter of writing a research proposal, but that doesn't mean you couldn't be using that proposal to write about a project that's ongoing. It could be something that you initiated, but it could be something that is continuing on from something that already exists. So yeah, those are options.
Yeah, great question. Any other questions that there might be? Let's see. I did have a question, Sophia, that I saw. Oh, okay. I saw that you answered, but we did get a question about, is economics considered STEM major? And while I know by UCSD it's social sciences, and maybe just in general, if you had any insight, like in general, if other students had questions about different majors, like do these programs kind of go based off what UCSD considers like STEM versus social sciences, or any insight that you had on that?
Sure. It varies. That's still going to be my answer. Some programs define eligibility because that's what the national organization requires. Like some of these are government organizations, and so they will have to go by government definitions. So they may not know what UCSD does in terms of classifying into various schools or divisions, and so it varies. Some of the programs are more specific to UCSD, but I would say for the most part, everyone is a little bit different. And so you'll just have to kind of check in, like for the camp program, I know it says STEM, but it's science, tech, engineering, math. I think econ is not considered for that particular one, for instance. typically, although you might be able to make an argument if you are doing something that is maybe more, I mentioned data science, and utilizing econ as like the area. So there is some possibilities, but it just varies depending on the program.
All right, and then we're getting a couple of more questions. Let's see. Would research count as on-campus work? I remember you said it varies on the program.
That does vary too. I think the only one that's very specific to work study, if you're looking for work study itself, is LATE, the Learning Aligned Employment Program. All the others are not. I mean, if you're looking about to just think about, am I getting paid? Does that consider work? You know, that's kind of maybe your own definition of what work might be. Because we've had some students saying, well, I need to work during the summer. I just need to get money. And, you know, our scholarships, in our opinion, is considered work. You're focusing on that and you're getting paid for it, but it's not an hourly wage. And so for some people, that's not considered the same. But it varies really depending on program to program, whether that's considered work per se.
Yeah. We have another question, which is, so when getting into research, when would it be too late? And is it harder to get into research our second year if we are delaying doing so? What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. We usually say get into research whenever you're ready. I wouldn't say second year of being a transfer student is too late. That's not too late. I might say spring quarter of your last year is getting to be too late. It doesn't mean you couldn't start research at that point, but it is very difficult for us to support you if you're talking about financially or even just participating in our programs. We don't have many programs that can start supporting students in senior year spring. There might be one, I can think of camp, I guess, might be able to take a senior student in spring quarter, but then you have to apply the quarter before. So, you know, if you're starting to think about things, the last quarter that you're here, that might be considered too late. But almost any time before then, it's really whenever you feel like you have the time and the mental space that you can allocate towards it, and that you feel like you have good enough time management to make sure that you take care of your classes first, maintain your GPA, and then also have room and space to do research. But it's not unusual for us to have transfer students in our program, so don't feel like that's exclusionary at all.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alright. If there's more questions, definitely reach out to the Undergraduate Research Hub, the Triton Transfer Hub, myself. Right, so we're here, resources for you. And yeah, if there's no other questions, I think we can kind of cut it here. But thank you so much for your presentation, and yeah, thanks for the questions.
Take care.
Great.